Okay, the next bit that we're looking at is the break-even point as it relates to business. So this is not like the break-even point in shares. This is a break-even point in terms of manufacturing and making a profit. So when you started your business and you're making a product, you want to know how many of them you need to sell to break even, so to start making your money. If as a business you go into making your product without this information, you're going to be flying blind. So it's very good to have this information so you can make good decisions. The critical point is the break-even point. This is where you start making money. So it gives you an idea of the minimum amount of items you need to sell to break even. The bigger the profit margin per item, the easier it is to break even. So if it costs you, say, I don't know, $100 to make something, and you sell it for $10, you're going to be making $90 per item. So the bigger that this is, the quicker it is to be for you to be able to break even and therefore make a profit. But often your profit margins can't be that big. So let's have a look at how it kind of works. There's two types of costs associated with a business. One is the fixed costs, and these remain the same no matter what you do. So that's something like your rent, your insurance, your rates, your taxes. They will always be the same regardless of how many items you'll make or how many items you sell. Something like electricity might go up with more items that you make, but generally something like rent will always be the same because you have to pay the $1,000 per month regardless of how many items you make or sell. Variable costs go up and down with the number of items that you make. So these are the ones that will go up if you make more or go down if you make less. So things like the cost of materials, power, water, those kind of things, and wages, especially if people are paid per hour or per item. Obviously, if you're getting paid per item, the more items you make, the more you have to pay someone. So these costs go up and down based on how many items you're making, hence the word variable. So let's have a look at the whole thing about profit and loss. Your total income comes from your selling price per unit, which is in dollars, times by the number of units that you sell. So if you sell each bit for $100, and you sell 10 of them, you make $1,000. That's 10 times 100. Your total costs come from two separate areas. One is your variable cost per unit, times by the number of units that you sell. And the other one is adding to your total fixed costs. So you get your variable cost per unit, times by the number of units that you sell. Then you add your fixed cost to it, and that gives you your total costs. So total income and total costs. So to work out whether you made a profit or a loss, let's have a look at an example and see how it works. You have 6,000 dog kennels, dog houses that are sold for $250 each. If the costs of the production are variable costs $70, labour $65, factory fees $20, fixed costs of rent $24,000, $3,000, and $77,000 respectively for salaries and depreciation. So your variable costs, first you work out your variable costs. So I'm grabbing $70 at $65 at $120. So therefore my variable costs are $155 per item. My fixed costs is my 24 grand at 30 at 77. It gives me 104,000. So that gives me my fixed cost of 104,000. It's always going to be 104,000 regardless of how many items I make. But my variable costs are going to go up every time I make a new item, and they are $150 per doghouse. So my total income is going to be my selling price, which is $250, times by the number of items that I sell. So I've got 250 times by 6,000. That means that my income for those 6,000 is going to be 1.5 million. So now I'm hoping that my costs are going to be less than 1.5 million. Otherwise, I'm going to be making a loss. So let's have a look. Our total costs are variable cost per unit times by the number of units added to our total fixed costs. So let's see how that works. Our variable cost per unit, as we worked out before, is 155. And we're doing 6,000 of them. Our fixed costs we've worked out is $104,000. So as we worked out from over here, it's 104,000. So 104,000, which gives us a grand total of $1,340,000 is our total costs. So now you can work out whether you make a profit or a loss, and you probably can see that you already are, because our costs are $1,034,000, which is less than our income, which means that we're going to be making a profit by going income, take away our costs. So our costs is 1.034 million, so it's 1,340,000, which means that you're going to be making a profit of $466,000, which is pretty cool. So you have made a bit of a profit there. But that's quite a long-handed way of doing it, because surely there's another way that makes it a bit easier. We can work out our profit and loss by looking at how many items we need to break even, how many items we need to sell. So we've got a way of doing that that's really easy. So it helps us work out how many we need to sell to break even, so how many we need to sell before we make a profit. And we use a thing called the marginal income per unit, which I just shortened down to MIPU, which equals the selling price take away the variable cost. So if you know how much you're selling them for, and you know how much it costs per item, if you take the two away, that'll give you how much money you are making per item. So if we do that for our example, from our dog houses, we are selling them for $250. It costs us $155 to make each one. Therefore, each time we sell one, we're going to be making $95, our marginal income per unit. That's pretty cool. So now what you can do with that is you can work out the number required to break even. So what you can do is you get your total fixed costs divided by your marginal income per unit. Now our total fixed costs, which we worked out before, so $104,000 is our total fixed costs. Now if we do the 104,000 divided by 95, which is how much we're making per item, it'll tell us that the number of items required to break even is 1094.74. Now notice that there's a decimal point there, so you have to round up to the next full item. So therefore you need to be selling 1,095 dog houses to break even. Now in our example we sold 6,000 of them, so you're going to be way ahead. So 1,095 is your break even point. When you reach that point, you start making money. So this is really good for working out how many items you need to sell to start breaking even. It also helps you budget, because you can work out what areas you might be able to save money on. So something like this, you might save some money by reducing your wages or getting a cheaper place to rent. But that will then make your marginal income per unit bigger. It'll make this bit bigger. The bigger that is, the less items you need to break even.